What have you got to start off with?
Well, are European leaders ganging up against Hollande? That's what the Nouvelle Observateur asks. This isn't their original story. It comes from the German magazine Der Spiegel, who reported this weekend that apparently Angela Merkel, Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy, the new Italian Prime Minister Mario Monti, and David Cameron have all secretly agreed amongst themselves not to meet François Hollande during his campaign. Now, this for the German, Spanish, and Italian leaders, this is apparently because they're worried that he plans to negotiate the European Stability Pact, which they've all just signed, which fixes them all to certain budgetary discipline measures, of course. He wants to renegotiate that, so they're worried that if he's elected, then that would put the whole future of the euro in danger. For David Cameron, of course, he hasn't signed that treaty himself anyway, but he's joining, if you like, this anti-Hollande offensive, according to Der Spiegel, because he wants to show solidarity with Nicolas Sarkozy. And this, of course, illustrates some of the problems that Hollande might have if elected, because he would be virtually the only left-wing leader left in Europe. So this gives a fairly easy door for the right-wing press to push at, just like Les Echos is doing in their editorial, saying, well, look, if he can't work with any of our European counterparts, how can we possibly elect him? But as the website Rue 89 points out, this might actually play well for him in the long run electorally, because two things that are very unpopular with the French public are the idea of foreign leaders trying to get involved in their politics and those budgetary discipline measures that Europe is imposing on France. So really, if there is a pact against him, or even the rumour that there is, it might help him gain credibility on his left, they say.
Now, staying with François Hollande, some people saying that he's moving too far to the left.
Well, those who were saying it the most are those who are worried about his supposed 75% tax that he's promised to bring in on earnings of over €1 million a year. Le Parisien is going over this again today on their front page. They've got fiscal exodus, why they're trying to leave, and they're talking about all those tax lawyers in Brussels, London and Geneva who apparently are getting huge influx of French people coming to see them to find out how they can get their income out of France in time. Now, they say that Hollande himself is pretty relaxed about this. They've got a nice cartoon of him waving off some very wealthy French people in their Mercedes saying, oh, let me know your address, maybe we can write to one another. And they say, that he is as relaxed as this about the idea that rich people are going to take their tax euros elsewhere because it's such an electorally popular policy. Apparently 2/3 of people think that the rich should be paying more tax.
What else is making headlines today?
Well, in French politics, Marine Le Pen gave a big meeting in Marseille this weekend, and Le Parisien reports that she restarted, if you like, two controversies. One about zero tolerance over crime. She said that Nicolas Sarkozy had let down the French people on crime, and that she would be the one who really cracks down and makes France a safer place to live. She had a lot to say about how many criminals, at least according to her, are of foreign origin as well. And she also restarted that controversy about halal meat. Remember, she said fairly recently that 100% of all meat sold in Paris was halal. She said that again yesterday in her meeting. And Nicolas Sarkozy, in a big meeting at the weekend in Bordeaux, also really, it seems to be Marine Le Pen who is leading the debate, if you like, on the right, because he went over a lot of the same themes. The paper reports at the weekend, talked about how he's going to impose zero tolerance on crime again. He talked about the burqa, he talked about immigration, and he talked about halal meat. He said all meat should be labelled so that you don't inadvertently buy halal meat by accident. Now, the left-wing candidate Jean-Luc Mélenchon tells Le Parisien this whole debate has got grotesque, and what kind of meat you buy should not be a political issue.
Looking at international news now, what is the French press making of Putin's victory in Russia?
Well, just briefly, Le Figaro has got him on the front page, the great return of Putin to the Kremlin. Now, in their editorial, they say that while he might have won an election, and he might even have won it fair and freely, even if there wasn't any fraud, he's still popular enough, they say, especially in rural areas, that he could probably still win. But they reckon there's evidence there was a widespread fraud. And also, they say he's come to the end of an era. He was originally elected in 2000 in an era in which the Russians wanted stability more than anything. They were willing, if you like, to take, for a lot of the middle classes, a trade-off to have a certain amount of prosperity in exchange for stability and the lack of democratic freedom. But now, that's not enough. They want those freedoms.
Okay, thank you very much, Elena, for taking us through the French newspapers. You're watching live from Paris. A reminder of our top stories. From president to